Today is February 15th, 2024, and I am excited to be here with Irene Hebisen to give her a chance to tell her sound story. Irene, thanks for having us. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to talk to you.
You got a lot of fun stories to tell, I can tell already. And let's start at the beginning. You were born February 27th, 1923, correct?
26,
1926.
correct.
Okay. So I'm going to do some quick math. That puts you at
I'll be
97?
I'll be 98 in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got a birthday coming up.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about early on. You were born in 1926. What was life like for you in St. Louis at that time?
Well, that was the end of the Depression, and we still were not too well off. But I didn't ever know we were poor because my family was full of love, and I didn't know we were poor until later. And then I went to school in the city of St. Louis. I got to go to kindergarten all day, which was an oddity because at that time you only went a half day. And then I got to go into first grade. I was always a little ahead of my classmates, which I thought was wonderful.
Did you enjoy school? Was school an
I did.
enjoyable experience for you?
I did.
What was your favorite subject?
English, all of the English, the drama, and all those things that were under the English department.
What about math? How were you at math?
Not bad, but not good.
Do you remember what elementary school did you attend? Do you remember the name?
Oh, yes, Brian Malamphy. It's over on the Park neighborhood now.
Still there today?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. In your family, did you have siblings, or did you have a big family?
There was three of us. I was the youngest, and my sister was 5 years older. My brother 2 years older than her, and of course they're both deceased.
Okay. Were you a close-knit family? Do you have fond memories of growing up with your siblings and your parents?
Yes, and my cousins, and it was a good extended family that we had.
Tell me a little bit about your mom and dad. What do you remember about mom and dad?
Well, mom and dad both worked, and of course at that time, not too many women had jobs, but my mother did, and we were always did things together. They took me to the Cardinal baseball games, and at that time you could get in almost free on Saturday.
Sure.
And Enos Slaughter was a baseball player at that time. You probably don't.
No, I know. I'm very familiar with that name. Yeah.
Okay. And we had we always went to church. I was from a Christian family, and we always went to church and all the church activities. So I had a full life.
Did you play any? Were you athletic? Did you play sports yourself?
No. When they'd pick teams, I was always the last one picked because I couldn't run, I couldn't hit, and I couldn't throw. So it didn't bother me.
Well, I've only known you for a few minutes here, but it seems like you would have been good for morale on the team. I would have picked you sooner just for that.
Well, no, I was always last, but at that time, I didn't have any problems with emotions or anything. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Didn't want to play ball anyway.
Were you a well-behaved student? Did your teachers like you in class?
Except I talked a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother always got little notes. She talks a lot.
You were a little social butterfly, huh?
Well, I didn't think about it as being that, but I guess maybe I was.
Do you remember the name of your favorite teacher? I know that's going back a ways, but...
In high school, I forgot the man's name, but he let me sign my own thing with his signature. So I got out of class a lot in high school.
And that was at McKinley High School?
McKinley High School.
Is that still there these days?
Well, yes, it's not a regular high school anymore, but it's still there, yes.
Okay. Well, tell me about some of your fondest memories from your time at McKinley High School.
Well, I guess some of my classes were fun. The drama department was really fun. And I had a lot of friends, and it was just a good experience. I don't know of any particular thing to talk about, but I had a good time at school.
Did you stay in touch with a lot of your high school friends as you got older? Did you keep in touch with people?
With some of them I did, but then at the 50th anniversary, I was got reacquainted with a lot of them, and they have a luncheon every other month, and I went to that for a while until my little group of graduating in 1943 kept getting smaller and smaller until I thought, I don't want to go back anymore. So I didn't.
You graduated in 1943. You would have been 17 or 18 at that
17.
time. 17. What came after high school? What was the next step after that?
Well, I entered nursing school, and but then I started dating my husband. He went in service. That was World War II.
This is James, correct?
Jim, yeah.
Jim.
And when he got home from boot camp, we decided to elope, and we did. And at that time in nursing school, you couldn't be married. It was strange. Teachers couldn't be married. Everybody. So at the end of that semester, I couldn't go to school anymore. So then I was married.
Tell me a little bit about Jim. Where did you meet Jim?
At a school dance. He went to a different high school, but all of his friends went to McKinley. So he was there, and I met him. And
did he ask you out, or did you have to ask him out?
No, he got my phone number, and he called and called and called. My mother finally said, would you either date him or tell him to stop calling? So I did. I dated. And then we were still 17 when we eloped.
How long did you date Jim before you guys eloped?
From about February or maybe March until November.
Did your parents like him? That's pretty important.
They didn't really know him too much because he'd come to get me to go out, and he didn't stay very long. So they didn't really know him until after we were married.
Do you remember? I'm often fascinated by stories of proposals. Do you remember what his proposal was like when he asked you to marry him?
No.
No?
No, I think it was in a letter when he was in boot camp.
Okay. Where was he stationed? Where did he go for boot camp?
Farragut, Idaho.
And you were here, obviously.
Yes.
That had to be tough, having the person you love far away and doing their own thing. And it's not like today where you could just send a text or an email.
Right, or grab your phone, talk to him.
Did you guys write a lot of letters?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you able to have the opportunity to like hold on to some of those? Do you still have those today, or have those kind of been lost in the shuffle?
No, I'm one of those people that when I'm finished with something, I pitch it. So no, I have none of those. I had a lot of them, but I don't anymore.
So when did you and your husband, Jim, decide to start a family? How did that come about?
Well, he was stationed in Florida twice, and the second time it was in Key West. And when I came home from down there, I didn't know it, and then I discovered I was pregnant. So we started our family really before he came home. Michael was 6 weeks old.
That was your first child was Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What year was Michael born?
1945.
1945. Now, was that a surprise? Was Michael a surprise, or was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you a little story about that. You couldn't go. You couldn't get on a train, and you take a bus. You maybe change 5 buses before you got all the way to Florida.
Okay.
And so he went to the Red Cross and told him I was pregnant. I needed to be on the train. So I got train transportation. That lie turned out to be true.
Oh, so when he told them you were pregnant.
And We didn't know it.
Didn't know it.
No.
But actually you were. So there was really no
Obviously.
lie.
Be careful what you lie about because you might get that. But I got a train ride.
So Michael was your firstborn, and then after that was Stephen.
Stephen,
What year was Stephen born?
1947.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Stephen.
Well, Stephen is a great guy, and he's one that you can rely on most of the time. He's very, very handy. He can do anything. If you need something fixed, Steve's the guy to go to.
It's a good person to have around.
He's wonderful.
Is Stephen local here in the St. Louis area?
Yes.
Are all your children?
I have 4
Okay.
that live in St. Charles County.
Okay.
And I have one that lives in Arizona, and then Michael is not living anymore.
And after Stephen was Tom.
Tom.
And also there's Judy, Sandy, and John.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your family life once you started having these kids. What was life like in your household with these kids running around?
Frantic.
Frantic, I can imagine.
But we were able to buy a little house, and my sister lived 5 houses away. She had 4 kids. I had 3. And the kids didn't know where they lived because they were together all the time. And it was a good experience. We had good neighbors with a school right behind us, and the kids could jump the fence and go to school. And I had some old friends that I had grown up with that lived in the same subdivision we did. So we had a great time.
What part of St. Louis did you guys live in?
I lived in South St. Louis on Lafayette Avenue.
Okay. The house still there today?
No, the last time I went by there, it was a 4-family flat, and it had been torn down, and that was, I don't know, quite a few years ago. All I have from there is memories.
On your information sheet, you told me a little bit about some jobs that you did. You said most of your time you were a stay-at-home mom. I'm sure that took up tons of time raising your children. But
yes, I was a room mother, and I did all the kids, their friends were at our house all the time.
Your house was the place to be?
Yes, and if it was dinner time, we just stretched the food a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
You also said that you went to work when necessary, and this is something I found really interesting.
I know.
The Rosie the Riveter during World War II at McDonald's.
No, it wasn't World War II. It was later than that.
Okay. Tell me about that experience. I don't know a lot about that, but when I was reading about you, I found that incredibly interesting. How did you end up doing that kind of work?
Well, when we'd get in financial problems, I'd go to work, and I'd take the one that paid the most, and then I'd work till we didn't have a problem anymore, and then I'd quit. And I did different office jobs and retail, and there was an ad in the paper that McDonnell Aircraft, which is now Boeing, was hiring. So I just ran right out there, got the job, and it was riveting. And I had to learn to ream holes with an electric drill and do riveting. So that was it wasn't during the war, but it was maybe a Korean War.
Okay. Was that difficult, like hard labor work, or?
No, I had fun.
You had fun? I
had fun. And there were times, I was always small. There were times that, not the department I worked in, but another one where they couldn't get anybody in there. You know, I got to go to a different department and get my little hands in there and my body where I was able to do that.
Your smaller frame came in handy there for
right.
them, huh? How long did you do that?
I don't remember, just till we got out of financial problems.
Just as long as you needed to. And you talked about nursing. You also did some work as an insurance agent?
Yes, that was what I went into insurance after the kids were all raised. And then I stayed with that company until I retired.
you listed some of your memorable life experience. Obviously, you talked about your children. You've got a bunch of grandchildren, great grandchildren. We talked a little bit off camera before that I actually know one of your grandchildren.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I taught one of your grandchildren Spanish at Rittner High School. I saw the last name and I thought there's gotta be a relation there. Tyler. I taught Tyler at Rittner High, and I'm going to put you on the spot. You told me how many grandchildren?
There's 60.
60.
No, 40. There's 40 something. 46, I think.
Are you able to get a lot of them together during the holidays? Are there some family events where you get most of them around?
My children have been so wonderful. Before Thanksgiving, they have John's lower level is big, and they get the tables, and we all share a meal and get together, and we've done that. Is it 2 or 3 years? 2 years since I've lived here, and my children are the ones that put this all together. It takes a lot of doing, and we've done that 2 years. Later this month, all my grandchildren are invited to an open house. So that for my birthday, that'll be 4 days before my birthday. So yes, I get to see them a lot.
Wonderful. And then there's some great grandchildren, you said?
Great grandchildren and great. I have 3 greats.
Wow. And I can tell our family seems to be really important to you. That's got to be wonderful to have such a large family, so much love.
I feel so blessed because I know ladies younger than me that don't have that support and activity with their kids.
Sure. Another thing I found really interesting on the information you provided was your son coming home from Vietnam after receiving 2 Purple Hearts.
I think maybe Becky put 2. I thought it was only 1, but yes.
Either way, remarkable achievement or accomplishment there. Which of your children was that?
Stephen.
That was Stephen. Was that difficult for you to have a son, or I don't know if you had more than one of your children in the military, but that's got to be tough to have one of your children over in Vietnam. And
that was terrible, and he was in the midst of it. Tom was in the Navy, and his ship was right outside of Vietnam. I don't know what what the port was or anything, but he wasn't in any danger. But Stephen was in the worst of it.
Do you know what his accomplishment was that helped him receive that Purple Heart?
No.
Not sure?
I just know he was wounded, but not bad. He's led a very full life.
Tell me a little bit about these youth trips that you and your family participated in.
Well, I was a Sunday school teacher of high school kids, and I was privileged to go on trips with the kids. And I always asked Sandy, will it bother you if your mother goes along? And she said no, because Sandy and I were so very close. And I would go on the school bus with them, and you have all these experiences with these noisy kids. And I loved them all. We had a granddaughter that lived with us after we retired, and we retired to Table Rock Lake. And I worked with youth there also, and I wanted to be young, and I wasn't. But her Sunday school group went to New Mexico, and we rode a school bus all the way to New Mexico.
That's a long bus ride.
And we stayed overnight on the way out, but that was fun. And we lived in not cabins, but little houses, and we did all kinds of things. And then I knew one of the teachers that was there, And I went into the city with her and got to see the Indians selling merchandise on the street and all of those things. And Sandy went on more that I didn't get to go on. I would have liked to gone to the one to New York, but I don't remember why I didn't get involved in that. But those were exciting days, and I still hear from some of those kids that were on those trips.
I tell you what, I have been on a few school buses full of kids in my day. Never on that long of a trip, and it takes a special person to ride on a school bus full of kids. So good for you for doing that. That's incredible.
It was fun.
Fun?
It's because I loved them. You didn't. Well, you probably loved those kids, but not like I loved. You only had them an hour a day.
True. You also mentioned, it says here, memorial vacations with family. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when the older kids, the older three, I have two families, because at 10 years, the older ones we took to Texas, where Jim's uncle lived, and to Rockport, Texas, and they did all the tourist things, and their favorite thing, I think, was getting bread, loaves of bread, and feeding the seagulls. You throw that up and you got one seagull, and all of a sudden you have 100. And they went out on a fishing boat, and we just did tourist things. Well, 10 years later, we took the younger children on a trip similar to that. Some of the things had changed, but they got to go out fishing, and Jim's uncle owned a boat that he took fishing parties out, and they did the bread. We did almost the same thing. There was a live oak tree that was one of the oldest ones, and on the first trip, the boys climbed that tree. So for our 50th wedding anniversary, the kids asked, "Do you want a big party, or would you like to go to Rockport on a vacation?" Well, we chose the vacation. These adult kids did all these things, playing in the water, getting bread to feed the seagulls, and we got to where the live oak tree was. There was a big fence around it with a sign, because it's one of the oldest ones, and those live oak trees lean over because the wind blows off the water constantly. And the sign meant nothing to my older boys. They climbed the fence and climbed the tree. And we have pictures of that. The authorities didn't catch them, so...
Well, that's a plus.
But we had a wonderful time.
How old were these boys when they were breaking all these rules and climbing this tree they weren't supposed to?
It was our 50th wedding anniversary, so Stephen had to be 49.
Just still breaking rules at 49, huh?
49, 47, 45.
Any other vacations? You mentioned going to Texas. Were there any other places that maybe your family went to, or did you have the opportunity to take some other trips, or was that the main?
Well, we took the younger children. My parents had moved to Phoenix, and we took the younger children. The older ones were already out of the house, and we took them there and took them went on out to California and went to Disney. And those were fun trips. Made several trips to Phoenix. And then my husband and I started cruising after the kids were all gone.
Okay. So once they were gone, you got the opportunity to go on some cruises?
Yes.
Where did the cruise ships go? I know you can do Caribbean. Some people do like Alaska.
We went to the Caribbean. We went to Alaska. And my husband had been stationed in Panama, so we went to Panama. You didn't get to go ashore, but you went into the lake, And that was the best one was Alaska. We enjoyed that more.
I bet it's just, I've seen some pictures. I've never been up to that part of the world, but I bet that's just beautiful up
Oh,
there.
it is. And when we were there in July, where everything is blooming because they have 23 hours of daylight. So everything grows real fast. Beautiful.
So you retired and moved to Table Rock Lake?
We built a house, had a house built almost on the lake, just 3 tiers up.
What year would this have been? Do you remember?
In the 80s. Okay, it was in the 80s.
What do you think of when you think of your time at Table Rock Lake? That had to be some great memories and experiences
it
there.
was so wonderful. It was peaceful, and we bought a pontoon boat, and my husband didn't fish and he didn't drive that boat, but he would sit and watch the birds, and he had birds feeders everywhere, and he loved to just watch the water. He liked to ride on the boat, but he didn't ever drive that boat. And Sandy would come down and bring her kids. Steve would bring his. And we just had wonderful times until Steve's kids began to get older, into sports, and they couldn't come down on weekends or, and then my husband got sick, so we came back. We came back to St. Charles.
Did you ever get to drive the boat?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to pull it in the stall and I kind of bent the front of it,
Oh, so that was the end of you getting to drive the boat, I guess.
Well, that was the end of me trying because I was trying to park it like you park a car. Doesn't work. But we had a house full of people all the time, And again, that was I loved that. And we'd go out for the day and I'd fix something in the oven that when we got home, it was ready to eat,
Have you been back to Table Rock Lake lately? Or is that kind of a closed chapter?
No, it's been how many years ago did we go?
Maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
5 or 6 years ago is the last time I was there. And my house is still standing there.
Do you miss it? Do you miss that being down there and getting to spend a lot of time there?
Well, it was a lot of fun. It's just you didn't have anything to do but be right there with them. So we all watch the same TV shows. We catch up on our marathon of
We always
mysteries.
Ooh, loved that show.
That was a big one. We'd all stay there and watch it for hours and hours. Play cards. We always played cards.
Ah, yeah. Cards are always fun on those family get-togethers. And spoons, apparently.
I'm that way about almost all the card games. I have a great granddaughter that is vicious also, and I've forgotten what game we played, and she always wins. I beat her. She would sulk for a little while, but that was just recently.
Are you competitive? You seem like you might have a little competitive side to you.
Yes.
I like that.
Oh, I have another young friend that's in his 70s, and he used to come all the time. And do you know what the boggle game is?
Yeah, it kind of has like a little bubble, right?
But you turn it over and the letters all change places.
Okay.
Well, word games are my favorite. So this turns over and you have so many seconds and you write down as many words as you can find. And then when you read them off, to see if you got them all, the other person can challenge you. Well, this friend, Frank, he would try and try and try to beat me. And one night he said, I challenged that word. Michael was sitting there and he kept saying, and they looked it up, get the dictionary out, look it up. It was a word.
Do you remember what the word was?
No.
No.
But it was something that I had known in the crossword puzzle always. Frank didn't do crossword puzzles. So he lost so many points, and I already had him beat. And do you have that thing that Frank gave me? But the world, the,
I don't know, Mom.
somewhere I have a thing that he gave me for Christmas, and he had it made to the world's greatest boggle player. And, and that was a few years back that he gave me that.
Do you feel like that helped you keep your mind sharp, those word
Oh,
games?
yes, and I still do them.
Yeah. One thing that we always ask when we do these sound stories and give people a chance to tell their story for their family, we ask how the world has changed in your lifetime. Some things change for the better, some things maybe not so much. So, as a person that was born in 1926, coming up on 100 years, what do you notice has changed over the course of your lifetime?
Most everything, some for the good, some not for the good.
Let's start with the good. What's changed for the better?
Well, medicine for one thing, and the fact that things can be cured that were never able to be cured as I was growing up, and education was very good. In St. Louis public schools, education was top notch. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that they don't teach the kids anymore. The electronic things, that's good. But the fact that they can't sign their name is not so good.
Yeah, and we talked before about my background as a teacher, and I taught elementary school near the end of my teaching career, and it was very evident that handwriting, penmanship, that kind of thing is just not emphasized anymore. Everything's on the screens and on the iPads, so I think you're right about that. There's no doubt about that.
I wonder in a few years how they're going to sign a check.
I bet you could ask a lot of these kids to sign a check, and they would probably say, "Well, what's a check?" You mentioned technology. At this point in your life, or have you kept up with the times? Are you good with technology?
I'm not too good, but I have a computer and I have an iPad and I have an iPhone.
Yeah. You got a Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to keep up with family and
yes,
when you can't see them all the time. You mentioned your religious background, your faith. You said Sunday was always a family day. Stores were closed. People went to church and the day was for family.
Yeah, that's true. All the stores were closed. Grocery stores were closed. Nobody ever thought of Famous Bar or Macy's being open on Sunday. It just wasn't. Only little stores that were called confectionaries were open on Sunday. And if you had to have milk or bread or, you could do that.
So what was the typical Sunday like for the Hebisen family back then?
Well, by the time that, these kids were old enough, we always had Sunday dinner. Even after the kids were married, they came home for Sunday dinner. And always the friends would come home from church with us. And I never knew how many I was going to feed, but it didn't make any difference. And God always gave us enough food to feed everybody. And we just had fun. So that was having fun, having worshiped in the morning, and then having fun with family and friends in the afternoon. I got an email today from one of my, I think, kids. He's probably 70 now, but I knew him when he was younger. And I used to always have my hair done. And I was very careful about my hair because I wanted to look good till the next Sunday, the next week when it was due to be done. He put my head under a faucet.
Oh, no.
And I had forgotten about this. Today he sent me a thing about, I had posted something about loving friends and how happy friends made you. And he texted me back, even when I put your head under a faucet. And I hadn't remembered that until he reminded me. And I text back, yes, I still love you,
I want to give you a chance to brag about yourself a little bit here. You talked about these family meals and cooking and having friends over. It didn't matter how many people were going to be there. I bet you're a pretty good cook, aren't you?
Well, I don't get to cook very much now because I can't get my walker in the pantry or in the stove. But
Back in the day,
I was a good cook.
what was your go-to meal? What was your specialty? If you were going to impress somebody, what were you going to
Spaghetti and meatballs was one of the things that my friends always requested, and my kids. Sandy told me the other day those were the best meatballs she has ever had. So I didn't know that till the other day.
Okay.
But I baked a lot. And at Christmas, I made hundreds and hundreds of cookies.
Oh, you were in charge of the Christmas cookies, huh?
Well, I guess I was in charge. I was by myself. So nobody else made them. Becky's had got my recipe. She makes a lot. And
What was your specialty for cookies? Were you chocolate chip, or what kind of? You make a bunch of different kinds.
a bunch of different kinds.
Yeah.
Some of them like chocolate chips. Some of them like, you know what anise cookies are?
I do not.
Or anise, it's also pronounced. Well, it's a German cookie, and it has a little taste of licorice, and they're just so good. So for part of my kids, that was their, and I would make hundreds of those big containers, and they usually went first. So
Did the kids help you in the kitchen when they were young? Did you pass those skills down to them?
well, to part of them I did, and part of them didn't take to that. Most of them are pretty good cooks, though. So
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about family traditions. You said you were always together on Sunday afternoons for dinner. All the holidays were great memories. Do you have any specific holiday memories or birthday memories from that time with your family? When you think of what you cherish most, are there any stories or times that really stand out? Decorating the tree. Did you guys decorate?
we always decorated the tree, and before all the things we have now, they had tinsel that was one strand at a time. Yeah, you're shaking your head, but you probably don't know.
I'm picturing it.
And you're supposed to put it on the tree like this, Well, the kids would throw it, and it would land, and it didn't look like tinsel on a tree at all. But
Do you still have any? I know, my grandmother, some people in my family still have ornaments that have been passed down from a long time ago. Are there any special ornaments that have kind of stood the test of time and are still around?
well, until 2 years ago, when I couldn't live alone anymore and I moved here, and John took me in, I had some, yes, that had been from when the kids were little that had dates on them, but that was one of the things that I couldn't move. I could only move in a certain amount of things into John's house. So those were cherished things. But when you get my age and you can't take care of yourself all the time, you can do part of the things, but you can't live alone anymore. Then let's face the fact, those things aren't that important.
Right.
So it was cherished at one time, but not in time.
But obviously, you guys have the memories, and those are the things that you'll carry with you, even if you don't have the physical
Right.
item
And
anymore.
the kids, some of the kids have all the pictures, and I know that they'll take care of them. And they have a lot of my things that were near and dear to me. But okay, it's time. This is another time of life. You move on.
Now, I'm hopping around a little bit on your timeline here, but this popped into my head from us talking earlier. I want to talk about your KMOX talent show. Tell us a little bit about your KMOX appearance. What year was that? I think you said you were 7?
7.
So it would have been around 1933, 1934, something like that. How did you end up on KMOX as a 7-year-old?
Well, KMOX was the station that my dad always listened to. And even during the Depression, we always had a radio, that one that's like, and they had a talent show. And of course, my mother thought I was very talented. I don't know whether I was or not. And she entered me into the contest, and we went to the studio, and I stood before a microphone, and I sang a song that Hoagie Carmichael wrote. And a lot of people don't know that name, but he was a very prolific songwriter. And recently, Sandy had it on this morning, pulled it up on Google, and I forgot her name.
Julie Andrews?
Julie Andrews made a record of it. And it was Little Old Lady dressed in lace. Anyway, it was Little Old Lady.
Did you perform this live, or was this something that was tape recorded? Or?
Oh, they wouldn't have tape recording back then.
Okay.
That was way before that time.
Okay.
And no, performed it live, and then people had their radio on. They heard it.
Do you remember being nervous doing this? Or
No.
This just came naturally to
No,
you?
my mother said do that, and I did it.
Did this talent show have a winner? Did you win the talent show?
I didn't win it, and I'm not sure whether it had a winner or if this was just something that KMOX had to make some parents happy. Made my mother very happy.
There must not have been a winner, because if there was, I have a feeling you would have won that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Did you perform any other time? Like, did you perform at school? Did you sing in school performances, or was the KMOX thing just you were one and done with your performance?
Well, I was one and done at that age, and then when I was in high school, I was in one of the school performances where all the schools perform, and at that time they didn't award a winner; everybody just performed. And they had an opening for a duet. So I sang a duet. I sang alto, so I sang a duet with another student. And I guess that was my big performance for high school.
You must be a big hit at the karaoke bars these days. I bet you still have a great voice.
No.
No?
No, for the last few years, it's gotten this raspy. And if I try to sing, I can't stay on key. I just, bounce around. So,
all right. Well, I think you're just being humble, but
I've always been in choral music and always in choir at church and in small groups and like a double trio, 6 of us singing. We did a lot of that. And when our church started televising, we would go on location and tape a lot of stuff. And
did you do did the family do any Christmas caroling?
no, the family didn't do that.
No?
No.
Okay. Another thing that we always ask, and I'm really interested to hear your take on this, is what do you know about living a happy and successful life that you didn't know when you were 20?
I told you earlier, when I was 17, I knew everything.
Right.
And when I was 20, I knew more than everything. And I've had to scale down from then that I didn't know too much, and I'm having to know a little more about important things. And there's been several times in my lifetime that I have known everything.
What kind of message would you want your family, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, everybody that will listen to this, because they'll have this forever going forward, what would you want to tell your loved ones that are going to be listening to your story, and what kind of message would you like to send them?
I would like each one of them to know Jesus Christ as their personal Savior. That's my message. And I won't preach.
You can preach. This is your sound story. Preach away.
No, I just want them to know that that's the most important decision that they can make in their whole life, because that's forever.
Are you still active in your church and with your faith now?
Well, I don't go to church anymore because our service is at 8:45. I can't get ready that early. So my computer is my church because they televise. And so John and I sit in there at the computer and worship.
That's another, we talked about technology earlier, and while there's definitely some things that are negative about how technology has kind of taken over in our society, I guess that's an example of a positive.
Yes.
Allow somebody like you to do something that's really important to you still through technology. Is your family, has that faith that was so important to you, do you feel like that was passed down and has spread to all your loved ones?
Part of them, yes.
Yeah.
I wish all, but that hasn't happened yet.
Well, what else could we tell your kids? I'm sure you're proud of them. Sandy's over here. What are you most proud of about your children, your grandchildren? I know when my mom or my grandma tells me they're proud of me, that means the world to me. So what are you proud of about the family that you've done such a great job of raising? And
I'm proud of them for what they've accomplished in their lifetime, not only as a parent, because most of them have children, but what they've accomplished with their education. And I have one grandson who's got his doctorate in education, and I have several that have their degrees, and I'm proud of them for that. I'm proud of them that they have their families, they take care of them. I wouldn't have all those grandchildren and greats and great-greats if the kids didn't take care of their families. They all work. We don't have any that decided that society can pay their way. We don't have any of that. And I'm very proud of that. And they've gotten that from their parents. The work ethic that their parents have is obvious in the kids.
I bet, if we're being honest, a lot of that probably comes all the way back from you. I think you should be proud of yourself that you raised kids who raised their kids to be so successful. So you've been very humble, but I think a lot of that is probably due to you and the way that you led your family.
Well, and Jim always went to work. He never missed work, even if he felt really bad. He never missed work. There was one time he worked nights, and it was on Sunday, and he didn't feel good. He was sick all day, and he was going to get ready to go to work. And my parents were visiting us that day, and they had been there for Sunday dinner. And my dad said, "You can't go to work." So he became so sick that we took him to the hospital instead of work. And they checked him out and sent him home. And after we got home, he got sicker. So I took him back. So they checked him again and said, something is going on in the abdomen that isn't good. I got the impression that he had cancer. And there was a mass and, all this. They said, we're going to have to do an exploratory surgery. When they did it, he had appendicitis, and instead of his appendix being on the right side, it was right in the middle of the abdomen. And it was ready to burst. And they got it just before that happened. But that illustrates the kind of work ethic ethics that my husband had. I'm not sure I had that much. I wouldn't have, if I'd felt really bad, I would have taken the day off. But he was determined with all of that pain that he was going to go to work. So that's an example of that's the example he set before the kids.
That's incredible, because You don't that work ethic, that personality trait of such a strong work ethic. I think there's no doubt about it. You don't see that as frequently anymore these days.
Well, some of the kids had it.
What else? Obviously, he had that phenomenal work ethic. What else attracted you so much to Jim? What was so great about your husband Jim?
Well, first of all, he was cute.
Of course, he was cute.
And he was funny. You could ask the kids, and they would tell you that he always had a joke. He always had, as we would drive along, and he'd see different people in their cars that looked funny. He had a name. He'd have a name for each one of those people, and it kept you laughing especially if we did road trips.
She's nodding off camera over there. It looks like she agrees with you over there.
One thing, there was a little lady, and she was probably about my size, but she was down trying to see, and he called her Shirley Shortlegs.
Shirley Shortlegs.
Yeah, but
okay.
That's the kind of names that he would make up for other people.
So funny, hardworking, cute. We can't forget about
He
cute.
was cute.
Anything else that
He
maybe
was cute when he got old, wasn't he, Sam?
he just kept getting better with age, huh?
Well, not better, but different.
Different. Okay. Anything else about Jim that maybe some of your great grandchildren who would have never had the opportunity to meet him, what would you want them to know about Jim?
I can't think of anything. I wasn't ready for that.
Was he affectionate?
Very, very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always let you know that he loved you very much. Always.
Did you see as your kids started to get older, did they take on some of the personality traits that you and Jim had? Do you see some of yourself and some of Jim in your children?
Yeah, I think the work ethic is one of the things. And the kids are all funny. And we've always been funny. We make fun of each other, but to the person, and we all laugh. You know, if you do something stupid, you're
going to hear about it.
You're
Yeah.
going to hear about it. One of my grandchildren had a birthday party at a bowling alley, and the kids bowled so many frames, and then they had hot dogs. And while they were eating hot dogs, this was a great grandson, and so I thought, well, I haven't bowled for a long time. While the kids are eating, I think I'll see if I can still bowl. I got the ball, and you go back like this, and I went forward, my whole body. And of course, here's all these kids, and my granddaughter was telling one of the kids' parents how wonderful the grandma is. Here the grandma goes sliding head first. And of course, they all wanted to know, is grandma hurt?
Was grandma hurt?
Grandma wasn't hurt. My feelings were a little bit hurt because I made such a fool of myself. But they still laugh about that. Another time we were playing, what is that card name?
What was it? Spoons?
Spoons. And I'm vicious. And I was sitting at the end of my dining room table, and the kids were around the table, and somebody had four of a kind. I reached over to get the spoon. My granddaughter reached to get the spoon. My chair turned over. I hit my head on the buffet, and then ended up. I'm really not that clumsy most of the time. I'm telling you two stories.
I was going to say, the last two stories tell me otherwise.
And the kids are saying, "Are you hurt, Mom?" I got the spoon. And that's been a joke of the whole family. I'm sure there's some more. I can only think of those two.
Well, you sound like you've got a good sense of humor about it. Not something
I hope I never lose my sense of humor.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be able to laugh at yourself.
You better laugh at yourself because everybody else is laughing.
True.
But the whole family is like this. Nobody gets offended. If somebody else had done that and we laughed at them, they would not have been mad. You know, there are families, if you say something like that, they're gone. You don't see them for a while.
Yeah.
Not mine.
I think that's probably the sign of a loving family, to be able to give each other a little bit of a hard time and know that it comes from a place of love and you're not being malicious or rude about it. So that's great that your family had that kind of relationship where you could laugh at each
We were in the
other.
Caribbean, and she had gone with her older boy snorkeling. I took the younger one to a chocolate factory, you know, and we're going back toward the ship. I don't know what happened, but I did one of those again. And of course, her son says, "Mom, she was walking around by me, and all of a sudden she's down like this." And so we laugh about that. I wasn't hurt. I had a little blood, but
But yet you're not clumsy.
I'm not clumsy.
Okay. Any other stories that have popped into your head that you would want to share that might be fun for somebody listening to this to hear?
I'm sure there's a lot.
How do you feel at your age, 97? Do you feel 97?
Well, there's this little woman in here that's trying to get out, but since I can't walk so good, she isn't getting out of there. But I would like to be. I don't feel this old until I look in the mirror. And oh yeah, there's that little old lady. But
And you got a birthday coming up. You'll be 98.
right.
Any big birthday plans? What are we doing for the big 98th celebration?
Well, we're having an open house here.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm going. And today was a big thing, and then just my children and I and their spouses are going to lunch on my birthday. So we're going to lunch because they're getting too old to drive at night too.
What's Irene's favorite place to go get lunch when you're picking your birthday meal? If you could go anywhere, where are you going?
Well, Olive Garden has been my favorite for a long time.
Oh, good breadsticks.
Yeah. But John and I went to Texas Roadhouse the other night, and that was very good. I just like to eat. So.
You like to eat? If you could choose any meal, what are you having for just Irene's like perfect dinner? You can get it. You can have somebody make it for you. Go get it somewhere. What's your absolute favorite thing to eat?
Eggplant Parmesan.
Eggplant Parmesan. I don't think I've ever had that.
You're missing something.
Where would I get it? Is this a homemade? Oh, Olive Garden. Okay. I'll have to check it out. Well, I want you to take this opportunity. We've done it a little bit, but for the people that are going to listen to this, for your loved ones, just tell them one last time what they've meant to you and just send them a final message as we close up your sound story.
They have meant so much to me. And over the years, I remember my first grandchild, and it was just such a great experience. And then as the kids came along, the grandchildren, more and more, every one of them are special, and they're all different in many ways. And then I haven't been so close to all of the great-grandchildren. Some of them, yes, some of them, no, because of the location where they live. And but each one of them is special. And each one of them, as I said, are different. They've got different personalities, and they even look at you different, you know, when they come for the open houses that we've had and for the celebrations we've had downstairs. They're just, to talk to them, it's just a pleasure. It's a gift of God.
That's incredible. Anything else before we say goodbye?
I do want to thank the kids for having made this possible. And I hope they enjoy seeing it. the times and times that they'll see it again.
Yeah, your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, they're going to love seeing this, hearing stories that maybe they haven't heard before. So I think it's incredible, and I'm honored to have been the one to sit down and allow you to tell that story. This is the sound story for Irene Hebisen. Irene, it was incredible to meet you. Thank you so much. You're a great storyteller. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.